want to mention during public comment that session does not have a public?
I think I would,
Speak if you want to.
yes, just so that people don't feel like they,
Get shafted.
right,
Yeah.
right.
I had to print off the whole packet this time. 136 pages.
Work session packet was awesome.
Seventh, 2026 meeting of the Mount Pleasant Planning Commission is now called to order. Ms. Pavadiko, can you take roll call?
Commissioner Boyd,
Present.
Commissioner Cresby,
Present.
Commissioner Devaney,
Here.
Commissioner Doran,
Here.
Commissioner Friedrich,
Here.
Commissioner Havels, absent, Commissioner Kingsworthy, absent, Commissioner Martinez, absent, Commissioner Orman.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. The first item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. The next item on our agenda is the approval of the regular meeting minutes from the April 9th, 2026 Planning Commission meeting.
Move to approve the minutes of the April 9th, 2026 regular meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. The next item on our agenda is the approval of the work session minutes from the April 9th, 2026 Planning Commission meeting.
Move to approve the work session minutes of the April 9th, 2026 meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. The next item on our agenda is the Zoning Board of Appeals report.
Madam Chair, the ZBA did meet on April 22nd, but it was a very short meeting. The applicant decided to postpone their cases to when they have more board members present.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is communications.
We did not receive any communications.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is public comment. This is general public comment so that members of the public are invited to comment forward to speak on any agenda or non-agenda items. I'm also going to add to this that the work session topic in a work session that does not have a public comment time. So if you did wish to speak on that topic, this would be the time to come forward. If you wish to come forward to speak, please come forward and state your name and your address. And we will have 5 minutes. Yes.
My name is John Zhang, 623 Hopkins. The single most important asset for most Americans is their home. Home ownership is more than an asset. It's an American dream. To own a home, to put monthly payments into a home that you own rather than pay your monthly rent to a landlord. To decorate one's home as they want, or to plant a garden on the property they own. Apartments, housing above businesses, and multiple family houses, townhouses are part of some residential neighborhoods. But today I want to talk about protecting single-family neighborhoods. Maintaining CD3 and CD3L neighborhoods is critical to keeping and attracting people to Mount Pleasant. When people buy a home in a neighborhood, they do not want a business next door or an apartment being built next door. A while ago, a neighbor and I met with city officials to confirm what zoning ordinance allowed. Thereafter, a group of homeowners met to discuss zoning language that was harmful to our neighborhood. A few months ago, during the city commission meeting, the mayor said he wished that residents would seek solutions to problems before they turned into issues brought to the commission. This is what I hope to do tonight. The group of homeowners discussed many zoning issues, but agreed unanimously on 4. I would like the Planning Commission at their June Planning Commission meeting to discuss these changes, and forward the changes to the City Commission to formally change the portions of the zoning ordinance to protect single-family neighborhoods. Number 1, should transitional housing with up to 16 unrelated residents be allowed in CD3 and CD3L neighborhoods? The answer is no. Currently, transitional housing is permitted as a right in CD3 and CD3L neighborhoods. We requested the City Planning Commission and the City Commission revise Article 4, building and lot plans and standard page 110 of the zoning ordinance to eliminate transitional housing in CD3 and CD3L. 2, should a second home be allowed to be built on the same lot as an existing home in CD3 and CD3L neighborhoods? The answer is no. Currently, the city incentivizes accessory dwellings units without regard to the neighborhood property values and serious infrastructure capacity issues. The city administration claims this housing type is only allowed by right in CD4 areas. However, even though the accessory dwelling need a special use permit in CD3 and CD3L areas, no permits have been denied, despite significant public opposition. Single-family neighborhoods do not want accessory dwellings, second homes, and neighboring properties, which will inevitably be rental buildings. 3, should short-term rentals be allowed in CD3 and CD3L neighborhoods? The answer is no. Even though Michigan courts have consistently held that short-term rentals are considered a commercial activity and business use of the property and not traditional residential use, the city allows this practice in CD3 and CD3L residential neighborhoods. We request the Planning Commission and the City Commission make it clear as part of the zoning ordinance that short-term rentals not be allowed in CD3 and CD3L neighborhoods. And finally, number 4, should business/commercial signs be allowed on property of a home business in the CD3 and CD3L neighborhoods? The answer is no. Most neighbors do not object to home businesses when one cannot even tell if the business is in the home. And they don't necessarily object to a small plaque on the door. However, commercial signs advertising and identifying the business location is highly objectionable. We requested the Planning Commission and the City Commission clarify the zoning ordinance to keep commercial signs out of the single-family neighborhoods. There should be no commercial signs in residential neighborhoods other than limited signs, for sale signs for houses and property, and short-term yard sale signs. No commercial signs, including yard signs and commercial vehicles parked in drives on the street of a home with the business signage on the vehicle.
Thank you for your time.
Can I leave? I'll leave this with you. You can.
Sure, we can do that. Thank you.
Think that's better. I'm Gisela Moffett. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. I'm Gisela Moffett and have been living at 1101 Watson Road for 57 years. I came here tonight to share my concerns about the lack of affordable housing in Mount Pleasant. I'm not speaking here on behalf of Swan, but many of my neighbors share my concerns. As the planning the City Planning Commission is seeking ways to create affordable housing, let me point out that this does not happen by changing the zoning of 31 acres that was formerly reserved for single-family neighborhoods at Crawford and Broomfield. By the way, I was surprised when I got here that you're going to discuss that issue here, and that was not in the agenda beforehand. So I'm surprised and I cannot stay the whole time, even though I really would like to hear what you are discussing. Also, it does not happen by rezoning a single lot in a CD3 neighborhood on Chippewa Street from CD3 to CD4. CD4 neighborhoods are great for rental properties and apartments, and CD4 is considered residential neighborhoods. However, when we speak here of residential neighborhoods, we are thinking of single-family home neighborhoods, CD3 and CD3L. The argument for affordable housing is not an argument for apartments. It is an argument for a home, a place where people can make payments and eventually pay off their mortgages on a home they will own. If a family rents for their entire life, they never stop paying rents, and the rents are always increasing. They never build equity either. People want to own a home so they can put down roots, grow their own garden, and plant bushes and trees. Home ownership is important, not only for the families, but also for the community at large. It creates stability, safety, and deeper human relationships. That's why home ownership is probably a part of the American dream, I think. I want to ask you to help protect those homes by protecting the neighborhoods. Change the zoning ordinance to protect CD neighborhoods, please. The person who spoke before me spoke of 4 things the Planning Commission can do to protect single-family housing. And these 4 things are really important to people who own homes. And he said, number 1, we do not want business advertising in neighborhoods. When someone conducts business in their home, it becomes objectionable when signs tell everyone it's not a single-family neighborhood, but rather a business district. And number 2, we do not want transitional housing in a single-family neighborhood. Up to 16 unrelated people living next door to a single-family home will destroy single-family neighborhoods. Number 3, we do not want short-term rentals in a single-family neighborhood. Save those hotel-type business homes for CD4 neighborhoods. And lastly, number 4, we do not want accessory housing units in single-family neighborhoods because these will turn eventually into rental properties and accelerate turning a single-family home neighborhood into more rental neighborhoods. You can tell that I feel very strongly about stable neighborhoods. It is because my husband and I and my children have benefited greatly from the love and support of our neighbors when we needed it. Thank you for your attention.
Hello, I'm Margin Notstein, 1361 South Crawford. I'm referring to the southwest corner of Broomfield. In the next few weeks and months, you're going to be asked to cancel the zone PRD at the southwest corner. As far as I can tell, most of the members of the Planning and City Commission think that ending the PRD is a good idea, but the next step is in question. My thinking is you do not need to quash the housing which was intended for that corner. One of the last chunks of vacant acreage in the city, it still should be zoned for houses and become a healthy contribution to the city tax base. Goodness, 50% of this city is untaxed. You know what that does to the cost of infrastructure for those paying the taxes. In past memorandums from our city planner, she writes on September 8th, 2025, referring to that corner, such PRD agreement from 2000 specified this to develop the intention to develop the property into a mix of residential uses. September 5, 2025, to the Planning Commission, a PRD agreement on March 25th or May 25th, 2000, which assigns the parcel to a condominium develop. Housing. Bullet point, it's important that when the rezoning would be enabling a school development, there's no tax base as opposed to the single-family detached and duplexes as set forth in the master plan future land use. In the April 27th, 26 City Commission packet, included is a new economic development plan. I'm going to give you some e-packet highlights. Page 57. They use words like development-ready properties, strengthen local tax base, increase housing. Page 157, the Bowen National Research. Mount Pleasant changes will likely result in an increase in demand and demonstrates ongoing demand for general occupancy and family housing. Page 194, such affordable housing should be an integral part of future housing solutions. Page 201, affordable for sale houses is a priority. And yet there is one multifamily rental housing project, no for sale housing projects in the pipeline within the city of Mount Pleasant. Professionals are telling us houses. Why then do we need to cause harm to our city by giving up perfect land for building houses to a zero tax base operation and losing tax base when there's empty swaths of land encircling the city wherever they could build? Page 201, the data illustrates that there is a limited number of homes for sale in the city. There is one multifamily rental housing project and no for sale housing projects in the development pipeline. Page 204, it weakens our city of Mount Pleasant when there's low availability of for sale houses. And it's a threat when too few houses cause higher prices and slow owner household growth. There's plenty of writing about quality of life. To support a community with quality of life, you have to retain and attract residents. And how do you do that? Affordable housing. In that 30-acre parcel, which is an old map now since there's a new one coming out, the southwest corner had this big chunk, quarter of it was CMU. This was already apartment units, and this was going to be houses. That's the only part that was left for houses. That's what our development plan says is necessary for the future. 45 years and 25 years ago, that was the intention and is still so necessary. On the new map, it's in the computer, guess who gets the prime acreage next to the open land, which is very often the prime buildable lots because it backs up to empty spaces. The houses don't get that land. Who does? The no tax base people get it. The city has empty land on Bradley and this southwest corner protect these areas for housing. We can't buy any more new city of Mount Pleasant land. And don't get me started on why we need to rezone any more land of this corner for community when a quarter of this corner has been given to CMU and is already untaxed. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name's Ed Peters. I own about 80% of developmental property that's on the property in question here. And I want to clarify a couple things. I attended a work session a few months ago. You'd have to check when it was, but and during that work session, it was between the city or the Planning Commission, and the City Commission. The land that I've been working with the church for a couple years now, trying to get this put together. It was agreed that we wanted to reduce the footprint from the church. We went from 30-some acres to 20 acres. Okay. Now, I also want to clarify the fact that I've entered into an agreement with one of the larger housing development companies in the state of Michigan. And I think on your new maps, you'll see that we have 15 acres that's going to be affordable housing. They call it workforce housing. These will be people that will be owner occupied, making their payments and owning their homes. There's 15 acres. I think in the work session, Manuel will be able to tell you that they're going to be between 80 and 90 homes built on that acreage. And I'm under contract, I'm in escrow. Everything depends on zoning. PRD, you cannot do anything at this point because the property, a large 60-some acres are donated to CMU. Okay. PRD, I don't know if a lot of people don't understand it. It's a comprehensive plan. It's an all or nothing, you know, with the open space requirements. You know, I've been involved in this for 25 years. You know, we had a really good plan years ago. We thought it would be a real asset to the community. We had a golf course in the open space part of it. Some people were confused that open space, you cannot build on it. There were some commissioners that were confused that we took away housing property to make a golf course. The open space requirements require just what it says, to be open space. So it's either would have been a weeded field or a manicured golf course. We felt that a manicured golf course would have been better look and nicer for the community. We believe that there's a need for the school. I do. I'm the only owner left now, other than CMU and McGurk's Apartments. So anyway, we've reduced the footprint for the Christian school. I'm under contract to get 80 to 90 residential homes built out there. So, and I had to take reduce part of my frontage and stuff because they had to have a minimum of 15 acres to make this housing development work. So anyway, I just wanted to clear, I think this, the school is going to be a huge benefit from the community because there's 5 churches that have consolidated to make this project work. They've been working on this for a couple of years now. There was some concern, why that area? Well, one of the main core churches involved in this project is the community church, which is literally across the street. So that's why this is such a great fit. And they also, with the ability of utilities, which they'll be, the school, when it gets up and going, they'll be purchasing sewer and water from the city of Mount Pleasant. And giving the community another option for their kids to go to school. Right now, out of those churches, last I knew, there was 34 families that are taking their kids to Midland because Sacred Heart has got a waiting list. So we believe there's a need for it. I think it's going to be a great thing for the community. And that's why I've been working with these folks for 2.5 years. I'm going to stick around for the work session. If you guys got any questions, I'll be available to answer anything you could. Other than that, thank you very much for your time, and hopefully we can get this thing over the finish line. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Hey, see no one else approaching for public comment in person, or is there anyone online?
No one is online.
Thank you. Will close public comment. The next item on the agenda is new business, which is the 2027-2032 capital improvement plan.
Hello all. My name is Lauren Pavlowski. I'm the finance director here at the City of Mount Pleasant. I'm here to present on the capital improvement plan for the 2027 to 2032 years. Tonight's presentation, I'll go over some of the updates for our 2026 projects. I'll heavily talk about our 2027 scheduled projects by department. We'll look at any changes from the prior plan, so the 26 through 31 year. And I'll have a quick summary for all the projects that are scheduled from the 28 year to the 32 year. And then we'll talk about the next steps on the CIP. So to start off, just as a reminder, the characteristics of a CIP project is that it's an original construction or substantial improvement. There is, it's an equipment purchase with estimated useful life of 10 or more years. It's gonna cost the city at least $20,000, or the project is gonna be spanning several years. The sources that we use for planning the CIP, we look at the city commission goals, we look at the master plan, the Parks and Recreation master plan, the tax capture district plans, PACER ratings, and sidewalk and alley inventory. Some of the key considerations when I'm looking into the CIP projects overall is we look to make sure that our cash flows are projecting well. On pages 3 through 10 of the large CIP document that was included in the packet, there are the cash flows for the 2027 through 2032 years related to all the projects. We look for affordability. We look at the reserve needs that we have to have per our ordinances for the city here. And we also look at the timing and the availability of grants and donations and when that has to be spent. This slide is it's on page 97 of the document. It looks at all the 2026 projects that we currently have going or are starting in the 2026 year. Some of these are in process currently, some are going to be started, some have been completed already. And there is a lot of moving parts right now that the departments are working through. I'm going to start talking about the upcoming projects for the 2027 CIP. We have our buildings department. We're looking at a roofing project for City Hall. This is looking at going to be about $120,000 estimated, and we're going to look at replacing the current roof with new shingles. And this is funded through our capital improvement project as well as private developer through the condo association that we have here. The next 2027 project we have is for our city clerk department. We are looking at a election equipment replacement for $165,000. And this is on page 20 of the document. We do have 8 current machines that will no longer meet the standards required by the state and federal governments as of 2028 that will need to be replaced to continue elections. Right now, the state is currently selecting the options for what they will approve on that side of things. So we're waiting for their approval before we can purchase ours. So that it was originally going to be a 2026 project. It's been pushed to 2027 because of that. The next department we're looking at is our downtown department with a total CIP request of $2,890,000. And this is for a $266,000 alleyway renovation project. And this looks at the alleyway between Michigan and University. And this has been delayed until 2027 due to an easement determination. We also have a downtown improvement program for $30,000. And this is a continuation of the repair and replacement of amenities based in that location, which includes landscaping, trash cans, electrical outlets, benches, bike racks, those types of objects. And then we're looking at a $2.6 million project related to the Mission Street shared use pathway. And this is a connection from Mission Street corridor to downtown and to establish additional connection points for the Mid-Michigan Regional Pathway System. Our Parks is requesting $3,222,000 for their capital improvement projects. We have a Chippewa Riverbank Protection Program project for $120,000, and this is on page 38. It includes phase 1 of the Mill Pond Dam repair and the pedestrian bridge abutment protection. Phase 2 of this project will be scheduled for 2028. The Island Park Pavilion project is for $2.79 million. And this is 100% funded by grants and would be the construction for the new Farmers Market Pavilion. There is a medium-sized project for $40,000, and that's for the roof replacement for Pickens restroom. The Mid-Michigan GKB pathway connection for $50,000. And this is the connection from the GKB Riverwalk to Chippewa Waters, and to establish another connection point. And right now, this connection is still in the early stages of planning. And we do have a request for playground equipment and universal access for $75,000. And this includes upgrades to the spray park features, valves, and controllers, an increase in the existing patio size to accommodate current and future use, and the Island Park and Pickens Field replacement satellite play components. And the final project is the renovation of park roads, lots, and trails for $147,000. And this is for the Nelson Park and Island Park trails. The next department that has a request is the Public Works Department for $617,000. We have sidewalk replacement projects for $150,000 on page 53 of the document. And it's to cover the replacement of sidewalks in various locations based on complaints and/or PACER ratings. And we also have a request for the storm sewer collection system extension project for $467,000. And this is for the engineering and drain connections for parts of the city that do not currently have direct access to our stormwater collection system. The plan right now is for areas that are on Elizabeth, Michigan, Franklin, and Arnold for this portion of the project. Our airport projects that we have for 2027 is we have our runway rehabilitation project for $3.2 million. That will require the removal and replacement of the current pavement. And we also have a ramp rehabilitation project for $107,000 for the design of the T-hanger ramp area for a total of $3.3 million. Our local street request is $1,186,000. And this is for the, this includes the engineering costs engineering costs and 24 thin overlays, 3 millet overlays, and 1 reconstruction of some of the some or all of the noted streets that are on the CIP. On page 66, there should be a map that includes all the different road constructions that they're looking at for doing for this. Our major streets department is requesting $1.4 million. And this includes engineering costs and 4 thin overlays, 2 millet overlays for some of the streets that are noted in the CIP on the map that's included for the major street section. Our water department is requesting $27.6 million. These projects that they have noted for this is the distribution system replacement on page 79 for $60,000. And it's to replace some of the system valves to ensure reliability of the system. There is a meter replacement project on page 84 for $348,000. And this is a continuation of a project that we've had going for the last couple of years to replace meters throughout the city. And it's over the course of a 5-year project in total. And this is to continue the swap out of the old meters with the new meters to increase accuracy and availability of real-time data while reducing the reliance on manual data collection and entry. And this is half of the project. The other half is shared with our water resource recovery facility. The biggest ask of this one has to do with our phase 2 drinking water state revolving fund project on page 85 for $27.27 million. And it's the second part of the facility improvement project that was started in the 2026 year and has a majority of the project happening in 2027. That's why the ask is so big in the 2027 year. The next department that I have is the Water Resource Recovery Facility. Their CIP request is $776,000. They have a facility improvement project for $330,000. This is to upgrade the HVAC system that, and this project was not included in the recent facility upgrades that they did with phase 1 and phase 2 of the Clean Water State Revolving Fund project that we had. So this is going to be an additional project that we have for the facility. The lift station improvement projects for 98,000 is for the bone lift station rehabilitation. And we have $348,000 for the meter replacement project. And that's the other half of the project we talked about in the water side of things. So some of the future year projects that are ongoing, we will continue to have our street reconstruction, sidewalk replacements, pedestrian safety, parking lots, trail maintenance, downtown infrastructure, plant replacements, water and sewer line rehabilitation and replacement, and projects similar to that. And those are noted throughout the second part of that, the CIP cash flows projection, where you can see the actual cost broken out by year. Some of the one-time projects that we have is a downtown streetscape, a generator replacement, vehicle storage shelter, airport lighting, and our Mid-Michigan GKB pathway connection for a later year. Some notes on some of the bigger projects that we have planned. We have our Island Park South and Farmers Market Pavilion that's to replace the current pavilion. And it's due to some flooding concerns and to incorporate an incubator kitchen. As I mentioned, when we went through the park side of things, that this $2.7 million project is fully grant funded. Our Mid-Michigan GKB pathway connection project that has costs in both 2027 and 2029. It was originally scheduled for 26 and 28, but we've had some delays due to just some of the issues with getting easements and some other projects, some other big plans that have been changed. It was announced early in Q1 of this year that they will receive $1.4 million to use towards this project for the 2029 portion. Another notable increase we have is to our streets funding. We have, there's a new Michigan Transportation Fund that's out there from the state of Michigan, and it has a large influx to the budget that we can have for that, and impacts the number of projects that we can reasonably consider completing in the next 5 years in a positive way. We're looking at an inflow of about $5 million for local streets. And lastly, we have the phase 2 bonding project, as I mentioned, for the water plant infrastructure improvements. That'll be the $27 million dollars. And this is to complete the substantial upgrades for the water plant for the outdated infrastructure, and we'll likely complete that project in 2028. In the very back of the CIP on page 102, there is a table, table number 6, that notes some of the projects that were considered for the CIP but not put in. These had to do either due to funding or just not having the plans available to have substantial plans in place to be able to present for the CIP. So we do still have those projects listed. One example that was mentioned in the city commission meeting was the pedestrian safety initiative they have for Mission Street. We can't complete that project right now because we're waiting on MDOT to tell us what their plan is, because that is a state road. So some of the next steps we have is we will have a second work session on May 11th with the City Commission. And we have a public hearing scheduled for May 26th. The required adoption of the CIP is June 8th. And we will use the CIP that's adopted to create our 2027 operating budget that will be submitted to City Commission on September 14th. Any questions?
I have some that's not really related to much, excuse me. On the proposed or project considered but not planned chart, I have no idea what a columbarium is. Do you have any idea what that is?
Bill will answer that one for me.
Thank you. Sorry. No, I just put my foot in my mouth or not, but.
What's that? Oh, yeah, so the columbarium is essentially a place to put ashes in the cemetery.
Fantastic.
So we've been trying to figure out a way to fund that project for a few years now. But basically what we're seeing is a lot more people are going that route instead of burying full bodies these days. So we're just trying to save space.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yes, other than affirm the hard work of all the city planners who worked on this, what criteria do you expect the planning commission to use in either supporting or suggesting changes to this plan?
That's a very good question. This is my second time presenting to the planning commission here. This is looking at basically input from the planning commission, just to support what we have out there for planning. There are some considerations that we have related to some of the street work and that type of thing that would fall kind of under the jurisdiction of the planning commission. So we just want to make sure you're aware of the different projects that are out there.
Because some of the funding is fungible within the city, how do you prioritize which, in the event that there's shortfalls, how do you prioritize which programs are most important? It's unclear to me from reviewing the document that any priorities have been established.
The priorities that we look at are related to what is the bigger need of the city as a whole. Some of that can be sourced out through the city commission, their goals and objectives, what they're looking at for the high priority, as well as looking at what we have available for funding, and defaulting to some of the directors and division heads that we have here at the city to help determine where their priorities fall, and then ultimately taking it to city commission to have them evaluate the final call on that.
Okay. Any further questions?
If I may, you're doing a great job in answering. I just wanted to kind of illustrate, we have a few new commissioners here. So one thing that I would illustrate with the CIP and how it relates to some of our planning efforts. So the City Commission has worked on the Mission Street Improvement Plan and the updates to the master plan, which was pretty much focused on the Mission Street plans. And so because we created that planning document and got it adopted, we were able to apply for the grant with the Michigan Department of Transportation Alternatives Program, and got accepted for 1.49 million, which allowed us to put the shared use pathway as part of the CIP for us to engage in construction next year. So I think any other goals and objectives that we have been discussing either at work sessions or in the master plan, especially as our policy document, could then feed to the directors and different departments to suggest more capital improvements as we go along. But each year we go through this exercise, so we don't have to solve all the issues today, but as you're going through the year and looking at the master plan and having ideas, feel free to reach out to me and I can create those sheets for future capital improvement plan. We can bring that to the city commission in future years and see if they would approve it.
All right. Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Motion to adjourn? No, just kidding. Motion to recommend this to the city commission? Okay, can do that.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. The next item on our agenda is the staff report.
All right, so the first item I have here for you today with the staff report is part of our administrative approvals. We approved SPR 2601 for 1616 North Mission Street. Koinski Construction was the applicant. Approval date was April 13, 2026. Summit Fire basically applied to simply change their entry roof from being flat to a pitched roof. And that's all it was. So it was administratively approved under a minor site plan review. went to all departments for review. For those who are new, our process involves the fire department, city engineering, and then planning and building safety. And we all circulate with other department heads as well. So depending on the scope, all different departments may be asked to provide review. That concludes this part of the staff report. And then I just have here another note that we do have a new member with us today. So welcome, George Doran, to the Planning Commission. This is your first meeting, and we're very happy to have you. The partial term for George Doran would end on December 31st, 2027. And you can always decide to get reappointed if you wish. The orientation was conducted on May 1st, so just last Friday. We had a very lengthy, good conversation and shared all the different sections of our bylaws, the state laws that the Planning Commission has to follow. And now we are full with 9 members. So yeah, that's basically it today. And I guess, yeah, that's my conclusion.
Thank you. Do any members of the Planning Commission have any questions for staff? Okay, seeing none, would entertain a motion to adjourn to work session.
Motion to adjourn to work session.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes to adjourn to work session.
Madam Chair, could we take a 5-minute recess
Yes.
for that? Thank you.
May 7th, 2026 work session to order. Ms. Pavlik, can you please take roll call?
All right, Commissioner Boyd,
Here.
Commissioner Crespi,
Here.
Devaney,
Here.
Durham,
Here.
Friedrich,
Here.
Havel's absent, Kingsworthy absent, Martinez absent, Orman,
Here.
we have a quorum.
Thank you. The first item on our agenda is the Crawford Broomfield rezoning and PRD dissolution alternative proposal.
All right, so here we are back to this project. So I just wanted to start with just some previous history very quickly on the timelines, get you through what we are doing today, the alternative proposal, talk a little bit about background on zoning master plan, how they intersect. Feel free to ask me questions. This is a work session, so it can be more informal and conversational, so we can all provide you all the information you need. All right, so we started discussions about this area-wide rezoning. So we have 157 acres, 5 different parcels, and we started those discussions back in 2023 with the Planning Commission. Then in 2024, staff filed a city-led proposal to rezone those parcels from PRD, Planned Residential Development, to multiple hardline zoning districts that we have already adopted into our zoning ordinance and applies elsewhere in the city. The Planning and City Commissions then approved a PRD dissolution agreement to basically dissolve a PRD agreement that has been in effect since 2000. Then we went through with a rezoning proposal, and the Planning Commission recommended rezoning Z2401, which is the one that has basically a civic zone for 31 acres, CD4 for the corner parcel, 12 acres, CD4 for where West Point Village Apartments is located, CD4 for that 10 acres south of that, and then Special District University for the CMU owned land, which is 54 acres. That rezoning went to the City Commission, and then they end up voting it down at a very close vote at 4-3. So this was back in 2024. The zoning ordinance requires us to wait 1 year to then file a rezoning again. And so we had a joint work session between the planning and city commissions, and we also had property owners present to answer any questions on November 24, 2025, in which the planning commission and city commission decided we had several options. One was to keep the existing PRD. Another one was to revisit the proposal and make adjustments. And then the other one was to actually redo the zoning ordinance and how it tackles especially the civic zone part, how we regulate civic buildings and open spaces. Basically, in a nutshell, just want to explain that one. Usually zoning allows civic uses or institutional uses inside residential districts. So where we allow residences, we also allow libraries, schools, parks. And here in Mount Pleasant, we regulate them separately since 2018, which is when we adopted the new ordinance. So with all those options, the commissions decided to pursue with adjustments to the previously proposed rezoning, which again, the basic premise of it is to get away from the PRD, moving towards hardline zoning, which allows for us to meet especially state criteria, which suggests that we should go more towards as of right development, so we can actually remove barriers to development, including all the uses that we're permitting on those sites. We then had the city commission decided to have a follow-up discussion among themselves at a work session, just city commission on December 8, 2025. And then at that meeting, the city commission directed staff to negotiate with the owners a reduction of 10 acres from the civic zone designation on that 31 parcel. So 31 to go to 21. Based on that direction, so first planning city commission said to remove 5, then city commission said to remove 10. So we've been working with all the owners of those properties, provided that proposal, discussed, and now we're bringing this alternative to you. So I'm going to walk you through that. Any questions so far about process? Okay. All right, so just about rezonings. So rezonings are also called zoning map amendments in the zoning ordinance. We have multiple sections that regulate how we go about it. But in a nutshell, they are regulated through state law. So rezonings, they start with the planning commission, who's the technical body, and then we provide a recommendation to the city commission for approval of a map amendment. Then we have this sentence here that was also quoted by our consultants at the joint work session back in November last year that says, the main question when discussing rezoning proposals is the proposed location for the district or districts the appropriate location for all uses that would be permitted there? So we look at the list of uses, the design standards, because we have a form-based code, so we have a lot of design standards here to apply. And we look at the zoning map, at context, and we ask ourselves, is this the right type of mix, right, for this particular area? So here I have an excerpt of our zoning map that shows this 157 acres today zoned planned residential development. We do not have any other land in town that has that zoning designation. And when we analyze the master plan and the future land use map, as well as the future goals for land use law in the city of Mount Pleasant, the master plan does not indicate the direction to have more PRDs. In fact, it has a chart that says that we want to move away from PRDs and towards hardline zoning. So that's why we've been proposing hardline zoning instead. Here we have an excerpt of the master plan future land use map. Anytime I'm bringing a rezoning proposal to you, either through your request or property owners may request them as well, or city staff may initiate those, we always look at the future land use map as a basis for where we want to go. So the future land use map that you see here on the screen was drawn back in 2020 when the city's master plan was adopted first. So we went ahead and did a completely new master plan in 2020. And with consultants that worked on the master plan, together with the residents, we have many civic meetings and the planning commission. This is the map that came at that time. In 2025, we just went through an amendment, and the only portion of this map that we changed is the south portion of Mission Street that became this darker blue portion or darker purple area. And we basically are calling that area regional corridor and no longer mixed use high, which is the designation for downtown. So just to give more context on the map and what we see there. For this rezoning in particular, what we have had since 2020 has been a basic map. Basically the boundaries that you see there are the existing property boundaries of those 5 parcels on the southwest corner of Crawford and Broomfield, with the corner being zoned or flagged as a future land use of mixed use, low intensity. And then we have attached residential on the south portion of that. So basically where West Point Village is, and then the 10-acre parcel south of that. And on to the west, we have residential as a designation in the future land use map. One item I'm going to point out here, obviously, we've been discussing this for a very long time, and we know that one of the main items in discussion is the civic zone designation. When you look at this map and you compare to what we have on the ground, there are no parcels that are flagged as parks or public or civic uses in the future. So we're basically locked the existing land to what we have, but we didn't really carve out space for more parks or more open spaces or more civic uses. So that's just the nature of it that I wanted to share with you. So history of the property zoning. These properties have been zoned PRD since the beginning of its time. So since 1980, it has been zoned PRD. The previous zoning ordinances had PRD rules. Now our PRD rules are very soft. We in fact don't have really specific requirements for PRDs, aside from saying that any previous PRD agreements shall continue to be in effect until and if they are dissolved. So that's what we have now versus what we had before. Uses that have been permitted since 1980 under the PRD have been a mix of residential uses, such as single-family and multiple-family dwellings, as well as civic uses, such as schools and other community facilities. The owner of the land at the time entered into a PRD agreement with the city in the year of 2000 for 4 of the 5 parcels to be developed into a mix of residential uses, except for the parcel currently owned by CMU, which has been restricted to open spaces under that PRD agreement or a golf course.
Can you explain the obligation that the university has to abide by that agreement, given they own the property?
Yes, so the university does not have to follow zoning, local zoning. So that's one. However, this is a legal binding contract. Therefore, when they accepted the donation, they are constrained with that open space requirement, golf course or open.
Given their financial situation, what would prevent them from selling it and making it subject to other uses?
So right now, if they sell it, the buyer will be restricted to those open space or golf course uses as well. The proposal that we have at hand has a framework in which if they sell it, the new buyer has to do residential. That's how we have the proposal coming to you today.
By residential CD?
CD3. All right, any other questions? That was a very good question there. Clarification. Thank you for asking. All right, so since then, only one parcel has been developed, as you know, partially, which is the West Point Village. We have 37 multiple family apartment buildings that have been completed out of 70 buildings that have been previously approved. When I mention this bullet point, I'm also gonna say in the PRD dissolution draft that you have, that I also had back in 2024, there is language there that we worked on with the owner, the McGurks, on that particular parcel. Basically, right now under the PRD, they could complete that West Point Village apartment complex and complete the leftover, buildings that they didn't build. They already placed underground infrastructure under that last row of apartments. We have 3 apartment buildings, and then we have underground infrastructure going all the way down to the end of the parcel, which could allow for other 5 buildings. They would like, as part of this agreement, to keep the ability to complete that row because they already have underground infrastructure, but they're not interested in building multiple family apartments on the back of that parcel and reach the 70 buildings amount. Under CD4, which is the proposed zoning, single-family homes, townhomes, duplexes, and small apartments could be built at the back portion. They can decide to sell it, they can decide to develop themselves, but there are options under CD4. Any questions on that? Because I know there's a lot of language there in the proposed contract.
So they may be interested in developing it not as apartments or selling it, but they're just definitely not interested in apartments.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so as you know, there was a lot of opportunity for student housing. Now our opportunity for housing has shifted completely to workforce and seniors. That's the need that we have right now. So they don't see basically the market for apartments for students, which is what they built in the past. All right, so the next bullet point, sites are subject to restrictions of the PRD agreement, as we discussed, and subject to the planning and city commission approvals. So all PRDs anywhere in the state of Michigan, they require city council or city commission approval. So when we go through all the way from the technical to the legislative body, we say that that's not as a right development. meaning that developers must create site plans and a contract, a legal document that tie the two together and get that approved all the way from planning to city commission or city council. So those development plans, including PRD amendments, would be required to go here in Mount Pleasant to the planning and city commission should anybody decide to develop housing as previously proposed. Likely, they will need to engage with attorneys to make amendments to the 2000 agreement. Because again, let's pick the West Point Village apartment site. Likely, no one is going to want to build those buildings specifically on that site. And so we would require an amendment to the existing contract as well as plan to develop something else if it's single family homes or other types of housing on that portion. Because of that, it has been shared being a really big barrier because you're needing to hire engineers, attorneys to create plans that may or may not be approved. There may be a very heavy negotiation period during those two kind of steps. And so going through as of right has been one of the main directions from the American Planning Association and Michigan chapter. So again, that's why we have that in the master plan, and we are suggesting that here too. So the current zoning ordinance standards, in the end of the day, do not apply to this 157 acres. And one of the results of a rezoning to hardline zoning is that we're going to have the rules that the city of Mount Pleasant adopted in 2018 coming to fruition as we see development proposals coming in. Any questions on this slide? Okay. So I already talked about this, but the PRD dissolution procedures, it's not a decision that is simply made by property owners, nor the city commission or the planning commission. It's a combination of all of the above, right? So we cannot really get anywhere if we don't have the owners agreeing to rezone their properties from PRD to hardline zoning, right? In our recommendation. So that's why we've been having so many work sessions. We had the joint work session. We had a lot of discussion. And I am happy that we are today in a position that everybody is in agreement with this alternative. But I still wanted to give you all the opportunity to see the alternative, the details, ask questions, and see if you have any proposed amendments to it, which would then re-trigger more negotiations on the back end here with property owners and planning and city commission. But I believe that we went really far so far. So this is what we have in terms of the zoning designations. On the left side of the slide, you can see the previous proposal from 2024. Again, we had the CD4 designations. Anything that you see a white hatch, so the West Point Village site and the south site, the 10-acre site, all of those are only for residential in zone CD4. The corner on the previous proposal, 12 acres, was for either commercial or housing or a mix. And you can have so many parcels in there, right? 12 acres is quite a lot. And then civic zone is the 31-acre parcel that is in green and 54 acres city SDU, so the university land, right? In that proposal, I had already proposed to the planning and city commissions that we would map SDU on that 54 acres, but also approve a zoning text amendment that would convert automatically SDU to CD3, which is what the master plan calls for, should CMU ever sell the land. CMU could also decide to even develop housing themselves, and in that case, buildings will be taxable. So it's similar to what we have in the smart zone. If CMU holds on to the land, an industrial building is built, that building is taxable. So that's another opportunity here under this PRD dissolution with the SDU. But if sold, the whole land and buildings will be taxable under CD3. That framework is nothing new, okay? So we already have the precise framework in the zoning ordinance under the SDU section that says elsewhere, we have areas close to Mitsuba, for example, that is zoned research center. And then the whole smart zone, if the property gets sold, that could be converted to research center as well. So it's basically a creative industrial zoning designation. And elsewhere, closer to the city and on campus, around campus, CMU land, if ever conveyed, is directly zoned or changed to CD5, which is our downtown higher density mixed use type of district. So that's what we paired for designing this framework here. So we are dropping the left proposal, and after the joint work session and 1 year worth of work, we are proposing what you see on the right. So changes are subtle, but they are getting a lot here. And I really want to highlight what this is doing. So the very first change is the actual boundaries of CMU site that used to have the strip of land here on the left to provide access to any future development here on the south to Broomfield Road, which is right here. And here we have Crawford. In this case, we are trying to get a more efficient development pattern. So instead of having a thoroughfare that if CMU ever develops it, or anybody else that buys the land, they would need to basically design this entire thoroughfare just to access this parcel. Instead, we moved it towards more like the middle and aligned with a driveway to the church, basically that's across the street. So it's a safer intersection to then have that thoroughfare bring vehicles to this parcel, and to this parcels over here on the east. In that way, we have a better chance to design a development parcel plan, which is basically our plan as we are seeing developments coming in. We can focus on having one main thoroughfare into this development area and then other access points that are internal to the rest of the land. In that way, we can achieve more efficient and safer traffic flows, right? Without having curb cuts from every single development that comes along Broomfield at a curb cut, right? We're trying to circumvent that. So
who would fund that road?
So the way we have in the PRD is whoever decides to build it first, they're going to have to provide an easement, access and utility easement to the other surrounding parcels. So let's say the first parcel is parcel A, the civic zone. They would build the thoroughfare, and once we get this parcel developed, they are going to be able to utilize the thoroughfare for access and for utilities. Vice versa works as well. Or they can work together.
Couldn't the person buying parcel A just have a driveway onto Broomfield though? Why would they need to develop a road next to it?
So we don't restrict it. However, we have limitations on block sizes. So under CD4, CZ, all of those district designations, we have in the development parcel plan requirements for large parcels. So anything over 4 acres, we are doing a development parcel plan. Even if less, we have the maximum block sizes. So we don't allow basically massive blocks that have driveways directly connecting to streets. So in the internal process, in the pre-application meeting, we're going to be checking for zoning compliance, as well as the city engineering department will be checking for traffic safety and all those standards that they have there. And the county road commission is going to be involved because we're talking about Broomfield. So we could have driveways.
So just so I'm clear,
But
any parcel over 4 acres, they can't have their own driveway.
they can.
Okay.
They can, but they have to comply with the city ordinance, and we require thoroughfares to create block structures.
Okay.
So
Got it.
yeah, in this 21 acre parcel, we're going to trigger development parcel plan.
Right.
So we have the ability as staff to ensure safety and zoning compliance for block sizes, building placement, lot sizes. Everything has to comply with zoning.
Mhm.
We don't have a limitation of number of driveways for developments. If that's something that you want to visit as we're going along,
Oh, no, I'm
That's
I'm
open.
just concerned about having too many driveways on.
Yeah.
Because the
Believe me.
CD4 parcel C
Yeah.
and parcel B also, they could do that. And then suddenly we have a whole bunch of driveways emptying onto a fairly busy road.
yes.
So,
I would
Yes,
agree
we're
with
trying
that.
to avoid starting another basically Mission Street problem.
Right,
right,
right.
right.
Mhm. Yes.
Okay. But you've accounted for all that. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm. And then the other part of this alternative proposal is that we heard from the community many times. We did a lot of data analysis. We discussed this so many times with you with the Bowen National Research, all the housing reports, the intern that I had last year. We all know that we need housing. So what we did was to discuss with the owner, and based on the developer that we were able to find, and they won 15 acres, what we decided to do is to reduce the amount of acreage for mixed use, so commercial or housing or mix. And with this thoroughfare change, we can still keep the amount of land the school is requiring for ball fields, building, and everything, and create 15 acres that we did not have before for housing development. So in 15 acres, I put in my packet under CD4, we can do 35 dwelling units per acre. So hundreds of homes, of units, if we go denser. This particular housing developer, they do mostly single family homes and are exploring townhomes as well, because there is a market here in Mount Pleasant for townhomes that are geared towards seniors, workforce, single, one person households, couples, and all of that. So what they shared with us so far is that around 80 to 90, 100 units is possible, which is roughly 6 dwelling units per acre on the 15-acre parcel. And then we have 7 acres for the CD4 mixed use on the corner.
Mhm.
Any questions?
Well, I'm unfamiliar with school sizes, but for parcel A, it seems to me that that would be enough property to handle a school that might have 1,000 students.
Yes.
What's the likelihood of us ever getting a school that would have 1,000 students?
Well, from the discussion last year, it was the sports fields and stuff that are associated with it to take up
Yes.
part of that land.
Yes, I'll tell you that we made many drawings to see and did a lot of precedent research. Schools that do have ball fields, that's the amount of acreage they need minimum. So if we include baseball, softball, soccer fields, and also they focus on agriculture learning, they need a lot of outdoor space. They're not thinking about a school that large, 1,000 students. They're thinking about a couple of hundreds and kind of grow each year. But if we compare to Sacred Heart, they don't have ball fields in the same location, right? They have ball fields in another site. They would like to have all together. So that's the acreage that would accommodate their programming based on what they've been working on in the past, I guess at this point, 7 years, 6 years. And we looked at other schools elsewhere in the state. Many of them are 40 acres, 20 acres, 30 acres. Because of the ball fields, once we decrease the 31 to 21, they likely will have to lose a field, but it's still possible. There's a lot of drainage needs on this area too. In speaking with the engineering, we are likely going to need drainage to occur along Broomfield to help with, with stormwater and how the water flows on site. That takes a lot of space. Parking takes a lot of space. And definitely, most definitely, stacking. So that's something we're very careful internally. I've been discussing with the engineer. We have our goals for stacking. We want to make sure stacking is accommodated on site. We don't want stacking to occur in Broomfield. And we're working with the County Road Commission as well as we move along. We'll be working together on that. Any other questions? So this is the kind of summary chart, just so you can see acreage, the zoning designations, uses permitted, and let me know if you have any questions. So goes from 73 acres for residential under this proposal, 54 remaining under CMU. If converted to residential, 21 for education institution civic, and 7.8 for mixed use residential lodging, commercial retail, professional service uses.
Do you know what CMU's long-term planning for that parcel is and what timeframes they have for whatever potential development or sale might happen?
I can say, yes, I know, and the answer is they have no plans. So they do not have plans in their master plan. They don't have any intention of using that property for CMU purposes. And in discussions, they also mentioned that to us, that they don't have any plans for CMU to use the parcel for institutional purposes. The reason why they are not considering a sale right now is because they tend to not sell property that easily, right? So I believe under the current status is they're likely going to hold on to the land. We can't promise at all that they're going to sell. But I believe as the city is growing and we get housing on the Broomfield side, we get commercial, we get in case of the school being approved. If we get those anchor developments, land prices go up. We get more value and we get development pressure too. We may have more potential buyers, more developers interested, and they may feel more entitled to or more interested in a sale in the future. I can obviously only suppose, but it is a strategy to start because it's vacant and it's the back. It's very hard for that land to be the first one to be developed. But as we see the parcels closer to where the thoroughfares are and the activity is, I believe in the long run, planning is a long-term game. I believe that we could see that being developed. I do.
Well, like you mentioned, the dissolution of the PRD has to be a compromise of all parties involved. So this isn't exactly what I would want, but this is an improvement over what we had last year.
What sort of timeline do you see for this?
So I'll get a recommendation from you today. If there are major changes, we're going to be delayed. Obviously, if we continue this pathway, we have June with the Planning Commission, PRD dissolution approval, and introduction of the rezoning, so we can get through the criteria, all the zoning requirements. Then we set a public hearing, if you agree, obviously, in July. And then we go to the City Commission in August for PRD approval and rezoning, so we can be ready in the fall. Yeah.
Any opinions?
I mean, having been part of this full discussion of this over the years, I mean, I do appreciate the compromises that have been made and where we've come to this point, and that all of the property owners are interested in having this dissolved. Just so that, because with, as has been presented and discussed in previous meetings and work sessions, the intention of the PRD agreement was so that this property would be developed and developed residentially to support what we've heard again and again, that we want housing and we want to support the growth of housing for our community. But unfortunately, from what we've also heard is that over the decades that the PRD has been in place, it has not it hasn't supported that. So that by having this go forward to having it more just straight line zoned, it really does support the intent that everybody would like the residential development of this land. And I really like that CMU property, if it does sell, it goes to residential. That we had that, yes, that we do have a compromised agreement with like of 21 acres for civic, but that also could be residential. I mean, that it's also, it's not that it can only have the possibility of a school. It's not only that it could be, there's a lot of residential possibilities with.
Yeah, so if zone civic zone, it is only for open space or institutional uses.
Okay.
But obviously a rezoning is not definite, right? We can always revisit that. If that's the case in the future, we can always revisit that if the property owner is in support. You will see in my future packets. For any rezoning that is city-led, I need an authorization from the property owner. So it's obviously not just the city's decision unless we do own land. But it's always a possibility to change the zoning or even change the code if that's something that we want to provide as more alternatives. That's another option as well.
Manuela, did you run the numbers just to see on the CD4 properties, how many single-family homes and how many multiple-family homes you could squeeze on there?
So for which land? Everything?
All the CD4 that's listed up there.
Okay,
Other than what's the apartments already, because obviously they're already there.
okay.
So
Let
you
me
did do
see.
that, didn't you?
So under CD4, which is I'll put the 73 and not include CMU,
Correct.
can be 2,500 units maximal. That's the density limitation.
Okay. But if they're single family,
Physically,
you know
yeah,
how many?
physically speaking, that's impossible when you do lower density, right? So if I do 6 dwelling units per acre is basically density that supports, I would put downtown as an example, our downtown single-family neighborhood. 60 feet of frontage, 50 feet of frontage, so not suburban developments.
Smaller than a quarter acre.
Smaller, smaller single family. 6 dwelling units per acre supports that kind of density in single family plus streets.
Right.
Right, so that would be 438.
438 houses, okay.
Yeah.
And do we know, I mean, I know that this is looking forward, but like that we have.
Our job, looking forward.
Right, I know, like, but like the, affordable housing that is being looked at for this property to be, and they are
Potential.
looking at that.
Yes, yes. So I would say this is the other really cool thing about this the 15 acres as a start, is the starting point. The developer is Allen Edmund Homes. I put that in my packet so we can be transparent here. Allen Edmund Homes, they have been building in Michigan for a long time. And because of our housing crisis that we're at, they have set a goal to build 2,500 units in the next 10 years. And they have this property engaged and are aiming to do 80. All of those, or a portion of, workforce, but definitely workforce housing. It's not going to be all of them market rate. They are interested in the workforce housing market because, as we all know, the cost of buying a home today as a working individual is extremely different than it was in the past. We have had a low vacancy rate. It's a seller's market. All of you all know all of this. Our prices are increasing. Obviously, we're more affordable than other communities out there, but prices have been increasing and salaries haven't been increasing. So Allen Edwin Homes is going to be working on a workforce housing development here.
You made reference to institutional uses for the civic zone. What's the range of institutional uses beside a school, besides a
Yeah.
school?
Let me go directly to the chart so I can give you the full breadth of it. So educational institution and civic uses are listed starting on page 104 of the ordinance. So uses that are permitted would be business, vocational, and technical schools, cemeteries, childcare centers, colleges and universities, golf courses, libraries, municipal buildings, including city halls, police, fire halls, and administration buildings, museums, parks, playgrounds, athletic fields and aquatic centers, places of worship, public parochial and private schools providing K-12 education. And that's it.
And none of those would need specific approval.
So they will come for site plan approval. But yeah, none of them are special use permits.
I just had a quick question, and this is just my ignorance here, but since I'm just fresh on the block here with this kind of stuff, is there specific zoning? I guess how specific does our residential zoning go? Because I see I've heard terms of CD 3, 4, and CDL 3. And I assume a lot of those deal with different variations of, is it for zone for duplexes or single family homes or this and that, or a multitude of those? Do we have a specific zoning ordinance category, I guess, that would specify that plot as just one of those categories? Or do we have to have it be, it's, single family homes and can be rental and can be this? Or is there a zoning ordinance where it's like, no, this has to be single family homes?
Okay. Yeah, so here in Mount Pleasant, we have CD3L is our more suburban-like district, requires larger lots. I believe it's 90-95 frontage.
Thus the L for large lot.
Exactly, thank you. So that's our larger lot, suburban, single family. It still allows for accessory dwelling units, there's special use permits, duplexes, and those more, denser forms. CD3 is basically smaller frontages, so allows for slightly denser, still pretty much focused on single family detached, does not allow townhomes, and it could allow duplexes, accessory dwelling units under special use permits. And then we move to CD4, which is what we call our missing middle housing district. Allows for a large range of housing types, including as a right, so none of them require special use permits. So that would be townhomes, duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, very much where we have the condominiums in town. That's the type of district that we map.
But it still allows single family homes.
And it allows single family homes, exactly.
They kind of build on each other.
And allows for smaller frontages. So let's say for townhomes, just in terms of the rental versus owner occupied, the way CD4 is designed does not restrict like townhomes to be rentals. It allows for subdivision of plots, so you could own your townhome unit in the land that you're at if you split the parcels with the 18, we require 18 feet of frontage. That's the minimum, which allows for those townhome kind of owner occupied housing types. And it could also allow for one parcel to have townhomes, make them rental, or maybe condo the units itself, like what we have in Rosewood condos and other condos in town. So it allows for a multitude, a range of different options, but single family homes could definitely be permitted as of right in part of CD4.
I asked because it seems like, while it's good to have that variance of options for those, that wide of a range of zoning, I feel like that also takes away a bit of our enforcement to get the kind of homes that we want. Because there's a lot of, we had this major issue with affordable housing, and there's been a lot of mention of affordable single-family homes. But the problem with the, at least in terms of how we're classifying CD4 for a lot of these areas, is there's no way to enforce that as a eventuality, outside of being like someone proposing what they want to build and us, fighting them on it. But according to the zoning, it would be permissible. So I worry that, as we already know, and you've discussed, the fact that the prospect of owning a home is not getting any easier. I'm under no illusion that I will likely never own a home. And so the problem I see happening is we allow development of what is proposed to be affordable housing, but the market pricing just continues to creep beyond the capability of our citizens to afford those homes. So we end up either with homes that we end up giving to the wrong people that we intended to give them to, or we ended up with a bunch of these empty homes that we spent all that money to, or at least allowed these people to build on, and now they're not earning us tax revenue back. And so I wonder if there's a more specified way that, or a zoning rule that we could create at some point in time that would be more specified to, like, instead of CDL 3, it would be like CDS, as in for a smaller single family home only zone. That way it would be a little bit easier to maybe specify how much room, because obviously certain areas are going to be affected in terms of whether you want to build suburban homes, which are going to be, you expect to have, your front yard and your backyard and, at least a half acre to do whatever you want with. And then we have, what we see downtown in terms of, your houses are right next to each other, but they are still your houses. And you have kind of in the groove of the shape of your home, your front and your backyard kind of thing. And I'm wondering if there's kind of a middle ground that could be found where they're not homes that are going to be jumping up to, $250,000 in like a year after they're built, in terms of the cost of land and just the cost of construction being that major barrier of entry for a lot of folks. So I don't know, that was just something that's been floating in my head around as I heard people speaking and as we've been going over these different zoning things, is just that there's no real good way to ensure that we're getting what we're wanting from people who decide to build here.
Yeah. I think you have a great point, and I would love to keep hearing more and more from you all, what kinds of housing you would like to see. Based on the policies that we have currently, the master plan focuses a lot on missing middle housing, which is anything in between single family and multiple family apartments. So that missing middle category, duplexes, accessory dwelling units, triplexes, fourplexes, has been a goal that has been adopted and discussed in the 2020 master plan. And that's one of the reasons that my focus has been on suggesting CD4 to match that goal. The reason why, and others can chime in here because you've had those discussions for longer than I have in the context of the city of Mount Pleasant, but just in general, anywhere in the country, I would say the missing middle has been the focus in the planning profession because they are naturally attainable housing typologies. So single family homes is the equivalent of the American dream. Yes, it is. But they cannot deliver affordability today without subsidy. So that's just a fact that we're trying to respond to. We can help developers find subsidy, which in the exchange, what they're doing is to keep the houses affordable, the single family houses affordable, but we're just not going to have subsidy for everything. So if we build missing middle, so let's say fourplex, right? It looks like a single family house, but it's split into 4 units, and you could condo them. You could rent them. Those are naturally more attainable in comparison to a single family home on the land.
Yeah.
So I believe that that's one of the main reasons, but I know that all of you can speak more to it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the CD4 offers the most flexibility with that too, because it could be your first house that you buy is actually a townhouse that's bumped up right up against another one because that's what you can afford at the time. And then from there, maybe you move on to a single family home. But also something we didn't talk about too much too is like workforce housing is not necessarily all houses people buy. These are also rental units because in another presentation we had last year, we talked about how there are 12,000 people that drive into the city every day to work. These are some of those people don't want to live in the city, they just want to work here. But some of those people would prefer to live in the city if they could because it's a shorter commute. But there's just nothing affordable in here. So CD4 gives you a wide range of things. And I don't think we'd end up in the situation where we're going to have a bunch of units that are not raising revenue for the city because the city doesn't actually build the units or specify what they have to be. That's up to the developers. And we would hope a developer who's actually good at their job would know this is what would sell in Mount Pleasant. So they're going to build things that are actually going to be used. So I'm not as concerned about that. But I think the CD4, like I hear what you're saying too. CD3 would probably be, it kind of forces people more to be single family homes. But then if somebody builds a whole bunch of single family homes in there and the price, they're really nice homes that are too expensive for somebody to buy. I mean, that's not really going to help our missing middle or our workforce come into the city either. So this is a good transition for that. And just the fact that there'd be more housing in Mount Pleasant should force prices just generally to go down too, which that'll enable more people to be able to buy houses in town. So, and this is a compromise with the PRD, so we can't have everything we want. So.
No, yeah.
Other questions? Yeah, I'm basically looking today for a recommendation and for how staff should move forward with this project.
Like a formal recommendation, like a motion? Is that what you're looking for, or just like a?
It's a work session.
Need
so-
a motion,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a work
It's just
session,
a
a motion.
consensus. If someone could summarize it to me, that would be great.
Real quick before we motion, sorry, is this the last time we're gonna get to talk about this?
Oh, no.
Before, since we should get to- I'm saying, we're pretty much deciding the fate of the PRD right now. I got really no problem with us moving to forced line, I'm sorry.
Hardline zoning.
Hardline zoning, excuse me.
Mhm.
I've got a lot of, I don't even know how to start with my questions, but to answer the question, I mean, that you're trying to get tonight, I mean, I just want to make sure that we're going to have more opportunities to discuss some more detail about, I mean, I don't know.
There'll be a meeting to
Yeah,
decide whether we want to schedule a public hearing.
there you go.
Yeah.
We'll discuss that.
Yes.
There'll be a meeting at the public hearing to hear public comment and decide if we make the recommendation to the city commission.
And then the
The
commission will
do
get
the
it.
same-
Yeah, they'll
Yeah.
go through the same
They'll do
process.
We gotta
process.
we gotta vote on
At
this
least
too,
4
yeah.
or 5 more
Yeah.
times.
This
But
is the more
it-
like informal discussion, right? It's for Q&A. You can always send questions via email. We can
So if you have a
answer.
bunch of questions, now is the time. Really.
Yeah, so now it's a good time. And if I cannot answer, I can provide them afterwards, include other departments if you have department-specific questions. But the next step that I would like to proceed with is really getting the PRD dissolution. I had the draft already. Draft was drafted by the city attorney, approved by the owners. And we would bring that in the next month for a formal recommendation of approval. And I'll be introducing the rezoning, so basically the same map, but just some narrative that accompanies it. And then at that meeting, you can still ask questions for clarification and make a formal motion to set the public hearing.
Okay.
If you choose us to do so.
I mean, I wanna speak to your concerns, ma'am. I want to. I agree that, I mean, I'm very concerned about the tax base and stuff like that. I don't necessarily want to give away land, but that's not what we're talking about tonight. So I just want to make sure that we do in fact get to have that conversation, and we can, to the extent that the planning commission even has the authority to make those decisions. So I mean,
The other component of things also is that, like, this is for the dissolution of the PRD and the zoning changes. But like many of the developments of these properties will still go through the planning process
Exactly, yeah.
afterwards, which means they might have to have special use permits depending on the circumstances of the
Okay.
whatever, right? In which case they still have to come back to us,
Sure,
and then they
sure.
still go through the same process, and they still work with staff to make sure they meet all the form-based code requirements and stuff. So choosing to make a decision in a month or whatever, right, doesn't suddenly mean a school's gonna appear on the corner.
Yeah,
of,
exactly, yeah.
Or wherever, you know, right, in parcel A, right? Because the school still has to go through an entire process to get a site plan review and all that kind of stuff, right? So and so you could, you know, all along the way, there's layers of bureaucracy that are part of this process, right? So.
that's the whole, yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of bureaucracy either, but I mean, that does give us a lot more options.
Manuel, is there a hierarchy or right of refusal for the civic zone usage?
Can you elaborate on that? Maybe, can you also come closer to the mic? Sorry about that. Just for.
Is there a hierarchy or right of refusal for civic zone usage? The proposal has that civic zone area.
Uh-huh.
Nobody has first rights to use that, right?
No.
So the usage of that would come before the planning commission and then before the city council?
No, so the rezoning is basically setting up what are the uses permitted on that whole parcel.
I'm
Now,
not to that.
yeah. But who can develop and what exactly? We
Would
don't
go
have
through-
control over that.
But they would go through all standard procedures.
Standard procedures, yeah. And as I mentioned to you, all the uses that we listed under civic or institutional, they are permitted by right. So there's no special use permit or new public hearings for the use specifically. But likely the development may trigger planning commission review because anything that is over 10,000 square feet has to come to the planning commission for approval. If not, it would be staff level. But again, staff level includes all the different departments at City Hall, engineering, fire, buildings, planning. We look at all city codes and ordinances, they have to comply. And then we go from the review process that way and approve administratively if that's the case, if it's less than 10,000 square feet. That's how it is right now. So yes, the main focus here is, do you agree with the proposed uses for the land?
Yeah.
For the whole area. And with the complexity that we need the owners to support.
Right, yeah, because ideally I'd like the civic zone to even be smaller, but I know this is a compromise and this is better than what we had, so.
I can agree with that. Yeah, it's, I got no problem with any of the parcels that have been zoned for CD4, the blue stuff. All that, we need the housing, I'm for that. I think we need some sort of civic zone in the corner there. That's a long way from just about everything else in the city. CMU provides a pretty solid buffer. What we're talking about is building a whole new neighborhood for the city, which is awesome, but it's gonna need everything that keeps the neighborhood alive. So it's gonna need a school of some sort. It's gonna need everything, but So yeah, I mean, as the PRD goes, I'm fine with getting rid of it. I like this new proposal pretty well. I would still, yeah, I mean, I'd like to find out ways that we can minimize the tax loss from that CZ zone. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's not necessarily something we have to discuss this evening.
Yeah, if I may just provide, those are obvious
Mhm.
information I'm gonna give to you, but the land right now is, we have West Point Village, right, that pays taxes. And then we have vacant land that it's almost nothing. We have agriculture activity, but it's almost nothing in the end of the year. A portion, if it's a school, it's gonna be untaxable, but the other parcels could contribute to the tax base now or in the future. The commercial corner is likely the most taxable or opportunity for taxable revenue there. Housing, obviously, too. Depending on incentives that are needed for workforce, we may also have to compromise a little bit in the near term. But in the long run,
Yeah.
if we build a whole neighborhood, we are going to be generating a lot of taxes.
It'd be bump,
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I think I saw somewhere earlier in the proposal, the current CZ zone, I may be reading this wrong, it's pulling 3,652 now, and the West Point Village right next to it is doing 445,000.
Right.
So that is an
Yeah, vacant land doesn't generate much tax income.
bonkers increase in tax value.
Yeah.
And as we were drawing this shift to the access point, it is very interesting to start getting to the weeds, right? For lack of a better word, of the development itself, bringing that first utility line from Broomfield into the site. That's a big step. So we need something to start, and then we can see more and more come from that. The way it is right now, we're really stuck, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions that you would like to ask?
I'm good for now, I guess.
Okay.
I have one more, I apologize.
Go for it.
Has anyone talked to Andy Reel or the people at CMISH to Central to see if they would allow use of their property since they're not going to develop, which would minimize the need for acreage in the green zone?
So, yes, and Andrew Ryle was part of the team that we have been discussing the SDU designation. All CMU requested is indeed for us to keep the SDU designation, and they agree with the tax change automatically. Yeah, I don't know what else to to say, but like
They were one of the owners in this agreement, so they were at the table. Because clearly you moved property.
oh yes, yes.
East.
So they
So-
they definitely were part of this discussion and
I think,
saw that as a positive change for them. Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what you're actually asking is whether there was any discussions about CMU letting their athletic sports facilities be used by the school, in which case you wouldn't need as much acreage to support the site of the school.
Ooh, I didn't think of that.
Like
So
that,
if-
is that what you're asking, right? Like,
Basically.
yeah, like whether they could use like the softball fields that CMU has.
Gotcha.
Oh, next, one county block over or whatever, right? Like the stuff like this. So that was the question being asked.
So
If anything
basically
ever came up.
use an existing CMU athletic field for the school.
Yeah, whether like, you need all these fields for the school, but like if
Yeah.
the school had by an agreement with CMU by right to use some of their intramural facilities
Existing.
that
Okay.
exist, that they're already built.
Uh-huh.
They're closer to, West Campus Drive and, where Quadrant Apartments used to be on the, there's on the other side, there's intramural type stuff that they build over there.
Mhm.
Whether that was ever brought up as an option, I think that's what it's there.
Yeah, yeah.
And I imagine the answer is no, but like.
Yeah.
like,
So they are very aware of the school and the school needs. That is not something staff brought up. I don't know if they discussed that internally, but based on the discussions I had, they want to preserve the right to the land and didn't discuss anything else beyond that. They also stated they don't have plans for CMU to use that land. now and don't expect that to come in the future. But that's all the information I have about CMU. I really like that creative thinking, and I wish that that would be as easy as doing that. But it's harder, right?
Well, with every little negotiation point
Yeah.
triggering the whole, like, okay, now everybody's got to agree again, and everybody's got to agree again, and everybody's got to agree again.
Mm-hmm.
The whole part of the PRD being a block on development of the region. anyway.
Right.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Good to proceed. Consensus,
Move forward with,
move forward.
yeah.
Yeah.
and
Okay.
Start the process, and then we can start the
All right.
actual voting and discussions and stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'll just say, you're welcome to send questions via email, call planning department, any planning commissioner member or a residence. So everybody's welcome to ask questions. If we can help you understand anything, just yeah, please let me know. All right, so I think we're done. And that's all I had for today.
Any motions to adjourn the? work
Motion to adjourn.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Work session adjourned.
Should I?